400 years ago, humans achieved the peak of society. A development of the world had changed everything, but one thing that didn't change was the darkness that dwelled in the hearts of humans. This darkness, the deceit, the hate, the doubt, it took the form of the Great Darkness. Humans tried to use the power of the Great Darkness to end all wars, but the darkness saw that the common problem was humanity. The darkness rained punishment down onto the human, and no amount of force could slow it down. The fate of humanity seemed to be sealed. In order to counteract the dark, a pillar of light formed, and from it, a giant man fused with a dragon descended. Wielding its sword, it began its legendary battle with the darkness. The battle shook the world, continents were destroyed, and millions of humans killed in the process. But in the end, the light had secured victory over the darkness. The story was told and retold, and over time, the legend was forgotten. In present day, lightning rains down from the sky, causing several explosions to occur. Demons are rampaging through the streets and killing everything they come across. They are led by this man wearing a dark cloak. He plans to capture the kingdom of Metallicana with the force of his demon army as he stampedes towards the castle. The guards at the castle prepare to make a last stand at the gates. They lay down their lives to protect the castle, but in the end, they are not able to do much to stop the insurgent wave of demons. Inside the cathedral, the remaining soldiers desperately try to form a defensive line against the demons to protect the princess. She is called Shyla. The commander tries to reassure the princess of her safety, but the situation is still dire. She asks who is attacking, and we learn the invading force is called the Dark Rebel Army. Elsewhere in the cathedral, a crybaby is seen crying at the sound of thunder. His name is Lucian. His guardian Yoko hands him a handkerchief to dry his tears. The remaining guards seal the entrance, but it's only a matter of time before the enemy manages to break through. Yoko holds Lucian close as she remembers what her father, the great priest, told her. An ancient power had been sealed within Lucian, the power of the great wizard, Dark Schneider, and the only way to unleash this power was by the kiss of a pure maiden, and for this reason, Yoko has remained single. The princess approaches Yoko and asks her to unseal the power within Lucian, but Yoko refuses to do it because she is too embarrassed. The enemy breaks through the door and begins to slaughter all the people. Lucian is pleading for his life, but Yoko is still too embarrassed to do the one thing that would save the lives of everyone there. Lucian ends up knocked unconscious, and Yoko finally decides to kiss him to complete the spell. The spell works, and Dark Schneider is reborn from Lucian's body. A man wearing the dark cloak sends some ogres to attack, but they are quickly blown away. Everyone is in awe of the power of Dark Schneider. Lucian is still present in Dark Schneider. Dark Schneider has no real intention of saving the people here, as he doesn't really know them, but he'll save Yoko though. Yoko reprimands him and asks him to save everyone. The crybaby Lucian in him makes him susceptible to her yelling. He unleashes a devastating spell to wipe out all the demons. The only one left is Dark Cloak. He tries his luck with a flashy lightning spell, and it appears to be very effective. Lucian seems to have been burnt to a crisp, but he manages to shrug it off and kill him in an incredibly painful manner. After the battle, Lucian tries to leave the place, but Yoko chases after him. He tells her of his plans. He plans to take revenge on her father and start a war to take over the world. And despite all that he said, Yoko is still drawn in by him. She thinks he has put her under a spell, but is just his natural ruse. He kisses Yoko once more, but it turns out a second kiss will revert him to his crybaby state. Yoko takes the now smaller Lucian and continues their journey. 3 generals sit atop their horses. They can't believe that Dark Cloak was defeated so easily, and there could only be one culprit, Dark Schneider. They want to verify the identity of the wizard, so they send Kevidubu, a powerful Hydra summoner, to go and attack them. If he destroys them, then there's nothing to worry about. If he is destroyed, then the wizard is the real deal. Elsewhere in the forest, a giant fire-breathing Hydra approaches the city. Lucian and Yoko have breakfast together when suddenly they notice a giant cloud approaching. The king is being informed of the demise of a neighboring kingdom at the hands of Dark Rebel Army's attack. With everything that has happened recently, it points to only one conclusion: the resurrection of the darkness. Everyone is terrified of the idea of the darkness returning, but just then, the Hydra enters the city. Yoko's father deduces that the Hydra is being controlled because normally it wouldn't enter human settlements. Only one option remains now: awaken Dark Schneider. Yoko is still hesitant to do it, but under pressure from her father, she does it. She asks Lucian to sit and close his eyes, and then she kisses him. After Dark Schneider awakens, the ministers seem to think that they are in a position to boss him around. These are honestly the stupidest ministers to have in a crisis. Lucian corners the priest. He still wants his revenge for being sealed away. Kevidubu senses Lucian's power from a distance and heads toward him to attack, while Yoko tries yelling at him again to get him to help. But he has already helped once. He is not obligated to do so again. Suddenly, Lucian unleashes a lightning spell against the priest. The priest is, however, a formidable foe and managed to block the attack with an anti-magic barrier. If magic won't work, Lucian tries to use a physical attack. He resurrects one of his golems to kill him, but at that moment, the Hydra bursts into the room. Lucian doesn't take too kindly to being interrupted and insults the Hydra summoner. He sends his golems to kill a Hydra and it rips off its heads with ease. He then attacks the summoner and burns him to death, but he hasn't forgotten about the priest. He is ready to squish him when Yoko cries out for him to stop. Yelling may not work anymore, but he is still Lucian and still loves her, so he decides to seal himself again for her sake. Outside the city, the Dark Rebel army troops gather to plan their next course of action. After seeing what happened, they are convinced that Dark Schneider has resurrected. It is revealed that years ago, Dark Schneider led them to conquer the world. There was no one stronger than him, but now he seems to be protecting the kingdom. Whatever reason he may have, the Dark Ninja Army leader Gaara is not going to back down from a fight. He is discovered by 2 guards, but we all know that the guards are no match for his power. They are cut to pieces in an instant. Back in the castle, the threat of the resurrection of the demon god Anthrasax is still very real. It was sealed away with 4 seals, one of which was guarded by the now fallen Judas kingdom. With one of the seals broken, it is clear that someone intends to revive Anthrasax. The only one who could do such a thing is Kalsu, the evil sorcerer and close friend of Dark Schneider. Kalsu is seen admiring Anthrasax, which he will soon resurrect. The ministers want Lucian to transform again to save them, but that isn't fair to Lucian. Yoko is still embarrassed about having to kiss Lucian. She has a lot on her mind, but Lucian wants to play. Yoko is worried for Lucian and vows to never let him turn into Dark Schneider again. All the soldiers in the castle prepare for war, but then Gaara just walks straight through the front door after killing the guards. He sneaks into Yoko's room and tries to announce himself, but Yoko quickly attacks him and knocks him to the ground. He is impressed by her strength, but she is still no match for him. He asks her where Dark Schneider is, but she is feigning ignorance. All the commotion wakes Lucian up, but Yoko tells him to go back to sleep, and even after seeing everything he has seen, he indeed goes back to sleep. Gaara threatens to do some unholy things to her, and upon seeing this, Dark Schneider takes over Lucian's body once more. He can now take over Lucian's body when he is asleep since the seal has been broken twice already. He vows to kill Gaara if he touches Yoko again. Just then, the guards burst into the room, prompting Gaara to leave on his wyvern, but not before kidnapping Yoko. With Yoko having been kidnapped, the priest looks for a way to rescue his daughter, but without her, they can't awaken Dark Schneider to go after them. Luckily, Princess Sheila is also capable of awakening him, but it would seem that Yoko is not the only one hung up on a kiss. The king will not accept this. He is not giving his daughter's first kiss to him. The king is dragged out and Dark Schneider is summoned, but he is not too eager to save Yoko at the moment. He has other priorities. Sheila is disgusted by his behavior and slaps him. Lucian ends up being convinced to help. He leads the princess and some soldiers to the ninja base as they prepare to attack the base. Inside the base, Yoko is chained up inside a hole. Gaara extends the offer, "I will let you go if you tell me how to break Dark Schneider's seal," but Yoko is staying silent. Gaara notices she is embarrassed and asks if she is in love with him. After seeing her reaction, he offers to tell her about Lucian's past relationships. Outside, the soldiers are wary because even though they have approached the base, the ninjas have not attacked yet, but just as they say this, the ninjas attack. The princess, despite her best intentions, proves to be nothing more than a hindrance to the soldiers. Lucian gets tired of the fight and finishes off the ninjas with one attack. He tells the princess to drop her sword and her armor because her fighting is slowing them down. She obliges and they continue on to the base. Back inside, Yoko wonders how many women Lucian has been with. She thinks it is around 10. But in reality, it is more like 300 after all. He has been alive for 400 years. And of these women, one is still alive to this day, one of the general of the rebel army. Gaara grows a little impatient with the banter and decides to perform some mental torture instead. He throws his slime into the hole with Yoko, but not just any slime, one that only dissolves clothing. He plans to embarrass Yoko until she gives up. Just before things get too out of hand, Lucian busts through the front door, and once inside, they face a minotaur. Lucian incites the soldiers to stay behind and battle the minotaur while he climbs up the ladder with the princess. He throws the princess on his shoulders and begins to climb. When they finally make it to the top of the ladder, they are attacked by a one-eyed monster with insane defenses. Even with Lucian's power, he still can't break through the defenses and is even injured during the fight. Luckily, Sheila sneaks up behind it and destabilizes its barrier by hitting it, allowing Lucian to blow it away. Sheila starts to tease Lucian about wanting to save Yoko so badly. He is agitated by this and decides to give her a little punishment. Lucian has been using a lot of magic lately, and it is starting to take its toll, so Sheila has to hold her own. But of course, she picks up the first cursed sword she sees and inadvertently poisons Lucian. The demon god in the sword arises and declares its intention to battle. Lucian manages to create a barrier to protect them from his flames, but the fire demon's flames are over 1,000 degrees hot. If they were to step out of the barrier, they would turn to ash. Sheila suggests using ice magic, but Lucian never learned any. He's only human after all. He has his strengths and weaknesses. The demon mocks Lucian for not knowing ice magic, but he is not going to give up. The demon prepares his next attack, and Lucian leaves Sheila in the barrier to protect from the heat. The flames get so hot that the floor turns to magma. But when faced with hot flames, you create your own flames and make them even hotter. Lucian attacks with his own flame spell and manages to beat the demon. The demon submits to him and turns back into a sword. Lucian confronts Gaara about what he did to Yoko and prepares to fight. Gaara is fairly confident in his ability to defeat a poison and magic-deprived Lucian. He thinks it will only take 5 minutes to defeat him. Gaara performs a windblade attack and knocks Lucian to the ground. The two then engage in a sword fight, but a sword fight puts Lucian at a disadvantage, so he decides to stick to what he is good at. He charges up his spell and Gaara charges towards him, slicing off his arm, but in return, the spell blasts off Gaara's arm. Gaara is now sure that Lucian is out of magic. He plans to make him lose his cool by telling him what he did to Yoko, in very graphic detail. Most of it was a lie, but it enraged Lucian. He decides to just blow up the entire base in one attack. Lightning strikes, the earth shakes, and the base crumbles to the ground. Amidst the ruins, Lucian makes some very self-aware remarks as he talks to the now-defeated Gaara. Gaara comments that Lucian has changed. He saved the girls and the dragon, which would normally go against his nature to do. Gaara doesn't want to be hostile towards them and informs them that their country is being attacked right now. This entire thing was meant to be a distraction. Kalsu receives a report that the ninja base has been destroyed, and even worse, Gaara and his army have defected from the rest of the rebel army. He knows this must be the work of Dark Schneider, so he issues an order for the other generals to kill him at any cost. The attack on Metallicana rages on. For the moment, the soldiers are able to keep the invading force at bay, but it is unclear how long they can hold out. The leader of the invading army, Nei, has no intention of backing down or allowing surrender. The only way this battle will end is when one side is completely destroyed. She receives word about the order to kill Dark Schneider, but she seems to have serious beef with him already. She lays down on her bed and falls asleep only to wake up in an illusion spell where Dark Schneider stands. This place was where they first met. Dark Schneider took 9 when she was little and raised her for over 100 years. He doesn't want her to be an enemy, but she already hates him. Her hatred towards him stems from him creating a harem for himself when she was always by his side. She gets really angry and attacks him with a lightning spell. Her fury is enormous, but she cannot leave her post to go kill Dark Schneider. As the illusion fades, she sends Arya, her subordinate, to go kill him for her. Lucian is walking with a dragon in the forest. He slipped away from Yoko and the rest of the group to go out on his own. But then Lars, the dragon, followed him to keep an eye on him. A scream is heard and the two go to investigate where it came from. A girl is seen running away from a giant spider and begging for help. She is saved by Lucian, who destroys the spider easily. She is grateful and asks him to come to her home so that she can thank him properly. Back in her home, Lucian is gorging himself on all the food he can get his hands on. Magic consumes a lot of energy, so he needs to eat when he can. That night, the girl comes into Lucian's room and talks about an old family tradition which she wants to complete, but in reality, it was a trap. She is actually Arya. She summons a spider on Lucian's back and has him eaten, but that was an illusion. The real Lucian is sitting behind her watching the show. Spells of this level could never defeat him. He holds too much power. Arya is defeated in battle, and Lucian heads out the next morning. Word reaches Nai about Arya falling to Lucian, and she's even angrier now. Lucian comes across another sorcerer sent to kill him. It is a pretty boy, and Lucian asks the dragon, who he thinks looks better between the two of them. Orcs are attacking, but the question carries more importance for him. He comes to the conclusion that he is the true Ree's Lord, and no one else can even compare to him as he blows away the orcs. The boy isn't about to give up yet. He still has his sword skill to attack. He slashes hundreds of times in the span of a second and dices up Lucian. But that was an illusion. He is actually behind him. Lucian then blows up the boy, but that too was an illusion. He appears behind Lucian and asks what happened to Arya. Lucian tells him about the battle they had and how she probably isn't interested in fighting anymore. The boy doesn't like what he is hearing and goes in for a strike, but Lucian brings out the fire sword he got and counters the attack. It turns out the pretty boy is actually a pretty girl, but her mission hasn't changed at all. She uses ancient god magic to petrify Lucian. He thought this would be an easy battle, but since he doesn't know the name of the god who powers the spell, he can't undo it. He is about to be broken into pieces when Arya jumps out from nowhere to save him. She tries to plead for Lucian's life, but it is no use. She is determined to kill him now. However, in her anger, she slipped up and mentioned the name of the god that her power comes from. This allows Lucian to break out of the petrification spell, but now he is naked. She is a little disgusted seeing him naked, but it's not his fault. She tries to attack again, but he can deflect the attacks now. He decides to give her a taste of his power and launches an attack of his own. He was going easy on her, but it still shredded her clothes. As a last resort, she unleashes her monster on them. The monster spews a gas that will turn everything to stone if to touch it, and it manages to turn Lucian's arm to stone. But right when it looks like all hope is lost, the wind changes and causes the gas to blow back towards her. She is knocked to the ground and loses control of the monster. And now that the monster is not under her control, it's much easier to kill. The girl claims that she has not lost despite losing her sword, her strongest spell, and her monster. She faints and Lucian has to take care of the poison in her in a suspicious manner. She has been swayed by his charms. She won't attack him anymore and allows him to continue on his journey. However, along the way, his magic depletion causes him to turn back into the crybaby Lucian. Lucian wanders through the forest and happens to find Yoko bathing in the river. He calls out to her, and she runs over to him and embraces him while still naked. They sit down to eat with the soldiers who were tasked with guarding Yoko. They can't believe that Lucian is the reincarnation of Dark Schneider, and to top it off, he brought a dragon back with him. One soldier tells the story of how Prince of the Kingdom used forbidden magic to turn into a dragon and join the battle to kill Dark Schneider many years ago. It would be funny if the dragon before their eyes turned out to be the reincarnation of the prince. In a dark castle, Count Diamond is brought 6 virgins by his servant. The servant assures him that all the girls are virgins and they seem to be hypnotized. Diamond is an evil, immortal vampire who seems to become even more powerful by drinking the blood of many virgins. However, one of the girls is not a virgin, so he takes out his anger on the servant and drains his body of every last drop of blood. He sent other servants out to get him virgins as well, and one of them is seen cornering some women and killing them. He then walks into the camp of Yoko and Lucian. He has come for Yoko, but at the sight of Yoko in danger, Lucian awakens Dark Schneider and threatens the werewolf. The werewolf is not scared because Lucian didn't fully transform. He pounces on him and tries to overwhelm him with blows before he can cast any spells. Lucian punches a hole in his stomach and drags his face through the ground before blasting his body away, leaving only a werewolf head and torso. He questions him about the plans of the Count and promises to spare the werewolf if he answers, but as soon as he answers, Lucian squishes his head anyway. Atop a hill, Daimon is looking down at the group. He has realized that Dark Schneider has been sealed, so he believes he has a chance of beating him. He jumps down to attack, and at that moment, Lucian reverts to his crybaby state that made it incredibly easy for Daimon to capture them. He brings them to his castle where he has also captured the other 2 sorcerers from before. He plans to kill them, but they break free and launch an all-out attack. It would seem that they succeeded, but Daimon's healing factor is too great. He is practically immortal. They are quickly overpowered by him. There's not much they can do with their current powers, but they don't give up hope. 2 girls think that Lucian will come save them, but unknown to them, Lucian in his crybaby form is hanging in a cage above them. Lucian cannot take the sight of everyone being beaten. Dark Schneider begins to come out in full force. While back in the kingdom, Gera's ninja army is keeping the monsters at bay with their power. Dark Schneider is fighting to overcome Lucian's consciousness, and Daimon is taken aback because he thought the seal couldn't be broken like that. But after seeing Yoko injured, Dark Schneider comes out and breaks free from his cage. He attacks Daimon with a lightning spell, one of the only spells that can harm vampires. And it seems to be working. But in the end, Daimon is still unharmed. Daimon uses his own spell. He shoots lasers from his eyes and turns Lucian into a pile of meat. Without him, the rest of the group stands no chance, and Daimon laughs over his victory. But while he is laughing, Lucian appears behind him. The previous lightning spell had damaged Daimon's nervous system, so now he cannot aim properly and accidentally hit one of his subordinates. He tries to attack again by firing in all directions since he cannot aim, but Lucian catches the attack and sends it back in the form of a lightning spell. Daimon mocks him for missing his shot, but he wasn't aiming for him, he aimed for the wall behind him. The wall crumbles and sunlight shines through Daimon's weakness. He turns to ashes, but just when everyone thinks it is over, a giant bat emerges from the ashes. The bat is Daimon's spirit, and from it, he will be able to revive later. So Lucian does the only thing he can do to keep him in check. He implants a spell that will turn him into a frog if he ever disobeys him. The remaining generals see this and want to finish off Lucian once and for all, but they worry about Naya turning against them, so they plan to use the same spell Lucian used to control her. Naya now has no choice but to kill Lucian. Even if she was already going to do it, she now needs the heart of Lucian to break the spell. So if she wants to survive, she has to do it. Nadia heads to the battlefield on her griffin and confronts Gara. They clash swords, and the two are knocked to the ground. Gara asks her if she wants to join Lucian, considering her relationship with him. But she rejects the idea and swings her lightning sword at him. The two of them struggle, but Gara is eventually able to fend her off, destroying the bridge in the process. Her sword is a legendary weapon. It is powerful enough to split a mountain in two. The only reason Gara's sword didn't break is because it is also a legendary weapon. He throws a shuriken at her, and once she jumps to avoid it, he slices her body in two with a powerful attack. But in a crazy turn of events that turns out to be an illusion, she pops up from behind him and cuts his arm off. But in a crazier turn of events that also turns out to be an illusion, Gara has made clones of himself using his ninja technique. It is unclear which one is the real one, and Gara uses this confusion to launch a supersonic slash. She barely manages to block it, but breaks her sword in the process, but she doesn't give up yet. She can still fight. The true power of the sword is not in the blade, but in the lightning within it. The lightning blade cannot be blocked, and Gara ends up taking some severe injuries. Just as she is about to finish him off, a giant light attack hits the bridge, and the source of the attack, Lucian. That last attack saved Gara, but Nadia still intends to kill Lucian. However, in the blink of an eye, he appears behind her and tries to convince her to stop the attack. His words begin to sway her, but she remembers the spell that was cast. If she opens her heart to him, she will die. She ordered her army to retreat. For now, the castle celebrates their victory. The next day, Nadia attacks the castle again. She unleashes a spell that destroys the entire castle. She has come prepared to kill Lucian. She casts another spell which seals the magic power of everyone in the vicinity. Now Lucian cannot use magic, but neither can she. She does, however, still have her sword, which should be more than enough to cut him down. She swings at him multiple times and nearly hits him when the fire demon god comes to Lucian's aid. The swords are evenly matched in power, but Lucian has less sword skill than Nadia. If they have a sword fight, he will lose. The sword understands this, and as they clash, it takes hold of the lightning sword and throws both of them into the magic-canceling spell. The swords have been destroyed, but so has the spell, so they can now use magic. When two strong magic users collide, the result is always devastating. Nadia summons thunder spirits, and to counter, Lucian summons flame spirits. It is still an even battle, so Lucian takes the time to ask why she is fighting so hard. She tells him it is because of the hardship she endured as a child, but Lucian is all too aware of that already. He was the one who took her in and raised her for 100 years. Nadia begins to waver, but the spell on her finger cannot be removed without Lucian's heart, so rather than killing him, she wants to be killed by him. They both unleash a devastating spell. As they unleash the spell, Nay says her farewell to Dark Schneider, saying she loved him. The spells clash, but little by little Dark Schneider's spell starts to overpower Nay's. Yuko feels that Nay is crying and wants to stop the battle, but Gara explains they can't do anything. Once a spell is cast, the energy needs to go somewhere and you can't reverse it. Dark Schneider hears a voice, and as he turns, he sees Lucian, who asks him if he can't tell that Nay is suffering a pain worse than death. Dark Schneider then looks at Nay and sees that she has accused cast on her. Dark Schneider realizes that Abigail did this. A large beam of light appears, and as it goes away, Gara sees that spell is gone. He realizes that Dark Schneider used transfer magic and sent the spell somewhere else. Dark Schneider stands in front of Nay, telling her he will free her from her curse. Dark Schneider rips his heart and spills blood from it over Nay's curse and breaks it, and his body falls in Nay's hands. Abigail sees Schneider's death and laughs, noting that he no longer needs to fear him. The first season ends here. Be sure to check our other recaps.